Hello, and welcome to the My Parking Consultant podcast. Our guest today is Errol Gayle, Business Development Director at Wise Moving Prime Technologies.
Hey guys, this is Amaral, and I'm the host of the My Parking Consultant podcast. And today, our guest is Errol Gayle, Business Development Director for Wise Moving Prime Technologies. Welcome, Errol.
Thank you so much, Anderson. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. I'm glad I was able to pull that one off.
It was.
It's a pleasure to have you here today.
And likewise, and thank you for the opportunity. Really do appreciate it. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, me and you, going back to some of the stories that we've had in the previous podcast, but we connected back in December at FPTA, right?
Exactly.
And I kind of told you about the idea of the podcast, and you're like, that sounds interesting. I would like to do it, and I'm really glad that we're able to connect. I know it's been 6 months, right? Since we went.
You know the proverbial phrase, nothing happens before it's time.
There you go. Yeah.
Very grateful.
Absolutely.
That we've been able to actually make it happen.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for making time. I
know no problem.
It's a privilege for you to be here today because I know you're not doing something in order for you to be here.
Exactly.
So you're putting something aside in order to be here.
That's right. Exactly. Very, very productive and meaningful sacrifice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, you and I just had lunch a few minutes ago and we're just catching up. Right?
We did.
And I kind of want to break the ice like I do with everybody else. And I want to kind of ask you, tell us the story of how you got into the parking industry so we can kind of just, learn about you. And so Can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd been working in the car rental space for approximately 18 years. And I started at Alamo Rent-A-Car, then went on to Avis Rent-A-Car, and then went on to Advantage Rent-A-Car. And in all three of those companies, I worked in the international division, promoting outbound travel from North America into global markets. At Alamo, it was specifically into Europe. And then when I moved on to Avis, it then became international, with the exception of Asia. And then when I went on to Advantage, it was truly global in every sense. So that was the bulk, or I should say the lion's share of my experience. I was let go, when I got let go from Advantage Rent-A-Car, I was very good friends with the CEO.
Okay.
And he, like me, eventually left Advantage Rent-A-Car and then went to a company by the name of Space Genius that's based in Tampa, Florida, but we both worked remotely. And the goal and function of Space Genius was an online reservation platform. So similar to a hotel or an airline website where you would go on and make a reservation, same principle, same concept, but this was for reserving a car parking space. So an example would be, we would, embed our widget, white labeled on, say, I don't know, so let's just say Fort Lauderdale International Airport. You would click on that website, click on parking, and then you're in the app booking engine. And then basically you would reserve, your your car parking spot.
You got that etched into your mind.
I know, right? Yeah. Exactly. And there you go. It's very efficient, cuts down reduces the stress level of looking for a parking space if you're like me, sometimes running late for your flight. So that's what we did. And I did that for close to 4 years. And then we all know what happened in 2020.
Ooh, the whole world, right, got impacted by this COVID.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. And it truly revolutionized everything that we know that we considered normal at that time. So it was a very trying time for us, I should say, as an individual, as a family, as a society, and on a global scale, something that I've never seen in my lifetime.
Since you brought up COVID, and we can't get around that, right? And it's a good thing to talk about since we've already been through it. Mm-hmm. Just key takeaways. Where were you when COVID first came about? That you heard it on the news, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story first, right? I recall I heard about COVID on the news, and the day after COVID really like hit the headlines, I was on the like I had to take a flight, and everyone on the flight was like wiping down their chairs with their own wipes and everything. I'm like, that thing's not gonna go anywhere. I mean, look, everybody's being cautious and everything. And next thing I know, a couple weeks later, we're all just staying at home,
Exactly.
But what about you? Like, where were you? How did, COVID like impact you, like with your job? Did, everyone in the parking industry got affected somewhere or somehow. How did it affect you personally?
It affected me personally because initially it was something I'd not ever experienced. And it was a high level of uncertainty. There was days and weeks that I questioned, how long is this going to go on for? I really kind of felt like, when was it, March? I kind of felt like come June, we'll be back to normal. June came. Okay. I gave it till September. September came. And then I gave it to Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving came and went. And then I kind of felt a sense of darkness, to be quite honest with you. And I am a God-fearing man. I do believe in God, and I know that his promises are true. But it was a period where it was something that I couldn't juxtapose against something else I'd ever experienced. It was just so unique on so many different levels. And it got to a point where I was very adamant about not watching the news because it was just so depressing.
Yeah.
Just day in and day out, you're hearing, people dying. It just became overwhelming to me. And somebody who is, outgoing, gregarious, likes to kind of interact with people. I like to play tennis, and all those elements were taken away. It was almost like a feeling of despair. One of the things that really struck me was that it was the global scale in which everybody was impacted. Because coming from the UK, a disproportionate amount of my family still live in the UK. And it was interesting that when we spoke, we're all saying the same things.
Right.
It wasn't something that was just unique to the United States where, the family would say, so how is it over there? And, what are you guys doing? We were all singing from the same song, looking at the same songbook, for the lack of a better phrase. And, it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
To be very honest with you. And then especially when they then closed the borders, whereby, you couldn't even hop on a plane to go to Europe or what have you, that really impacted me a lot, because it almost kind of felt like, a lifeline had been taken.
Sure.
So to speak. So it was a very strange time in my life. And, I leaned heavily, on God's promises and, on his word. But I did have moments when I felt very weak.
You're human, right?
Like,
you have,
Like, how much longer is this going to take? And I even went through periods where, will we ever exit out of this? Will we ever get back to a place that was considered familiar and normal?
Yeah. No, I relate to what you're saying. And then again, you mentioned about the uncertainty. Like for me, like, me and my family, like my immediate family, like my wife and my kids, we got COVID right in the very beginning,
Right.
So we're like, we got it. Never going to get it again.
Right.
And it's like, bro, really? And then we ended up catching it again, like probably like 6 or 8 months down the road. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And it was some crazy times that we lived through, without a doubt. Now, how did and being from the parking industry, it was in all of our minds. Like, when I was working for the organization that I was working at the time, the one thing to do, because at a moment's notice, right, which is literally like you flip the switch, and the parking industry, hospitality industry in general, just stopped, right?
Yes.
And the income that our organizations were used to bringing in from and the revenue that they were making, all of a sudden it's just stopped as well. So that impacted a lot of people in the way that you live financially. The organization that I worked for at the time, They had done some pay cuts so they wouldn't have to fire anybody, which I thought that was great.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So even though I was making like a portion of my income, I just felt that I was blessed at least to have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you and I were speaking earlier today, you were on the flip side of that where the company had to actually lay people off. Can you talk a little bit about your experience on that? Again, very difficult time to, first of all, going through a pandemic and then not, having, your income. Man, that must have been like a really crazy, crazy time in your life.
It was. And it's a time in my life that honestly I would not like to repeat. I specifically remember it was the beginning of March and I reached out to one of the accounts. And this account actually was based in Tampa. And I said to him, with everything that's going on, how are things going, from a business perspective? And he says, Errol, I'll put it to you this way. He says, I have a parking lot that accommodates 500 cars, 500 spaces. And he says, I'm looking through the window right now. And right now there's 2 cars on the lot and one of them is mine. He then said to me, so what's your next question?
Yeah.
And it then hit me like, this thing is real.
Yeah.
And then, when I looked at the company revenue, when I was looking at the reports, revenue for us plummeted down to 95%.
Wow.
So at that point, I figured the writing was on the wall. I knew something was going to happen. I knew something was going to happen that would be, would have negative repercussions. And it was approximately 1 week later that we were tasked to dial in on a company conference call line. And the words were, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we have no other choice but to let each of you go. And, it was a very hard call. I could hear the emotion in the CEO's voice when he imparted those words to us. And I think we were all just very dumbfounded from the perspective of, it's coming, but then when you actually hear the term, you've been let go.
Right. You're expecting it, but once it happens, you're in disbelief. You're like, wow.
Exactly.
It came to fruition, like what you didn't,
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. And I remember him specifically saying, does anybody have any questions? And there was just this deafening silence on the call. I think it was one of those expressions where, people are trying to,
in a moment like that, and I'm sorry to cut you off, you almost have that outer body experience where your mind, you're there present in the call, but your mind is ready, 50 miles ahead thinking, what am I going to do? I got to talk to this person. I got to do this, or I'm going to pay that bill. I'm going to take care of that. Right. Is that like what you were going through?
That's exactly what was going through my mind and more. And, because I think where my mind went is having been in the position of being let go. I'm kind of, I've been in that position before, but this layoff was like no other, because so many of my friends, former co-workers were in the same position.
Right.
And as we were stating earlier, when I've been in this position before, I usually have my go-to people, that I can say, can you keep an eye out or whatever the case may be. Well, those same go-to people were in the same situation as me, so it was very unusual. It was the one time I've been laid off that I didn't take it personal. Because oftentimes when I have been laid off, and I haven't been laid off that much, I mean, I'm really, truly grateful for that. My coworkers are still working, but everybody was in the same pool, so to speak. So that was really, it was kind of reassuring in a strange kind of way of looking at it.
You kind of felt that you weren't singled out, right?
Exactly. I'm not in this alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole world problem.
Exactly. I'm not in this alone. And then, when we, were given the news and everything, the very next day, in our email inboxes, we were, given, the necessary information to file unemployment or what have you. So, it wasn't a like I said, it wasn't like anything I had experienced before. And I know this sounds strange, it sounds like an oxymoron, but I almost took solace in the fact that, I can call a former coworker, I can call a friend, and they're going to say the same thing. So it's almost like a kind of group support, if you will, that we're all in the same boat together. And I remember specifically, assisting, some former co-workers that hadn't filled out an application for unemployment, on walking them through the process and everything like that. So I kind of felt like it was a support group, and you get through, but there were some days that were very darker than others. But somehow, you get through, and, even, in that situation, I mean, you're applying for work, but nothing's going to become of it, because the places that you're applying for work to work with, they're in a downsize mode, so it was, at times, and I think you said it best, at times it was really like an out-of-body experience. Mm-hmm. It really was.
Yeah. Almost feeling like that you're living a dream that, well, I should say more of like a nightmare.
Yes.
But it's like, let me pinch myself, make sure that I'm really living this, right? It's like
exactly.
really going through, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of like, what it is. No, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back a little bit on something that you brought up. So you transitioned from the rental car industry. You were in the international division of that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Into the parking industry. Was there anything that you learned in the I'm not gonna say, I guess it has to do with cars, but it's not necessarily automotive.
Mm-hmm.
It's, service industry. You're providing a service.
Mm-hmm.
But what were some of the things that you might have learned, or that you've picked up along the way in that industry that helped you to transition into parking? Because parking is kind of unique. Parking is a niche.
It is,
right? So how was that transition? Was there, again, just some takeaways on what, helped you, some things that maybe were very different, but you adapted? Can you share some of that experience with us?
Well, one thing that, is, was definitely, it wasn't a challenge for me, was the fact that, demand and supply is real. And the same way in car rental, the same way in parking, if the demand is there, the business is there. If the demand is not there, then the business is just not there. So that was one of the things that, for me was definitely an undercurrent that was kind of a mirror of one industry versus the other. One of the things that I found a little challenging, though, once I came into the parking industry, is that things don't happen as quick. Car rental is considered a travel service, and I would say, things kind of happen, deals were kind of cut on a more rapid pace. Mm-hmm. Parking, I often use the term watching wet paint dry. It just doesn't happen with the same level of brevity as it does in the car rental. So that was a kind of mindset adjustment for me, and especially with my personality, I like to keep things moving and keep it going. That was something that I struggled with tremendously once I came into the parking industry. But in terms of the fundamentals, in terms of, the partnerships, nurturing the partnerships, listening to their needs and their concerns, and making sure that you come up with viable remedies, that to me, I always find it's very motivational for me. I like to ensure that the customer is happy and that we can assist them in a timely manner, to remedy, whatever the problem is in a timely manner. So for me, they were definitely overlays that I could see. I can definitely see how my experience working in car rental has helped facilitate the work that I do in parking.
Nice. Good to hear that. Now, I've told you this before, and I think that you speak so eloquently, right? You speak so well. Where did you learn to have such a good,
You're embarrassing me. I think a lot of my training really emanates, to church. Mm-hmm. Because, I was born and raised Assembly Adventist in the UK, and we did a lot of public speaking.
Okay.
In church programs, etc. A little bit at school as well. But I would say that essentially the lion's share of my training and experience to be able to speak publicly came from my church.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning about college a little earlier today. What did you major in college?
I actually majored in marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually majored in marketing, and I actually stumbled across marketing because one of the things that I like to do is I like to travel. I like to, I'm a people's person, so I like to interact with a lot of people. And when I was actually at school, I forgot what the term is, but it's one of those situations where, you're asked a series of questions and then it spits out, likely jobs that will match. I actually always wanted to be in the legal field.
Okay.
I've always had a fascination with, how you can use, I don't know, testimony and then kind of bring it in a kind of way that can kind of sway you or, dissuade you or whatever the case may be. But in the UK, working in the legal field, was not working in the legal field, but studying the legal field was very expensive, very time consuming. And I think I was looking at probably 6, 7, 8 years or whatever, and that didn't kind of entice me. And then the next thing that came up on the list was marketing.
Okay.
And I did some research on it. And the more I dove into it and got to understand the mechanics of it, I thought that definitely aligns with my personality.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So yeah, that's how I got into it. Yeah. But if I had my time again, I think I would definitely go into the legal profession.
Legal, you would go back into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Nice.
Definitely.
Very nice. Errol, you had mentioned earlier that you're from England, right? So how does an English boy end up in South Florida? So when was that transition? How long ago did that happen? Can you share with us a little bit about that story?
Okay, so as those listeners cannot pinpoint my exact age, I'm just gonna say over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I came to visit my uncle, who at the time lived in Miami.
Okay.
And he had invited me over, and the church that he attended was the same church that my now mother-in-law attended. And one particular Sabbath when I was there, she overheard me speaking and realized that I was the nephew of my uncle. I'm from England, and she demanded that somebody fetch her daughter. And we were introduced and kind of like put on the spot,
right,
for the lack of a better phrase. And let's just say the rest is history. Although at the time we were both very embarrassed, and we said hello and then went our separate ways. But then I think it was a couple of weeks thereafter, we got talking and became, acquainted, and then we became pen pals, and she came to the UK, and then I would come to the States or what have you. Her name is Lisa. And honestly, true to form, the rest is history, and that's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm here in the States is primarily because of my wife.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you came from England. It's an English-speaking country, even though you have a different accent. Then you don't have to tell me the exact age, but were you like in your 20s when you came to the US?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, mid-20s. Yes.
How was like your transition period from that, just adapting from UK to the US? Was that like difficult? Was that something that you're like, wow, this is so different? Or was this something that was like,
what always strikes me was that though we speak the same language, there's certain words and choices of words that very much differ, so to speak. So that was interesting, for the lack of a better phrase. Just the mindset as well. I remember specifically when I interviewed for my first role. I forgot the name of the company, but I remember the interviewer saying to me, "Okay, Mr. Gayle, it seems like, you'd be a likely fit. We just want to run through some of the benefits. And one of the benefits is that in the first year, you get no vacation."
Okay.
And I think I was arrested at that point.
You're like, ooh, I come from here.
I'm like, okay, did she not see my application? I'm from England.
Exactly.
And England is...
What do you guys call it? Holidays?
Holiday.
Yeah.
And one of my assignments in England was working, part-time. And even as a part-timer, I got 2 weeks holiday.
Really?
So when she said, no vacation that first week. I mean that first year, I took a deep breath, and then I said to myself, I don't think I'll be seeing you again. Because that was just a concept that is just so alien to me. Because in England there's a heavy emphasis on taking time off and going on holiday. And I've been in situations in the UK where, it's coming to September, and my line manager will say to me, you've not taken any time off. You need to schedule some time between now and the end of the year. So there was a very heavy focus on that. And when I came here, it was just, it just seemed so alien to me. It just seemed so foreign,
right?
To put it mildly. And, the work ethic here is very strong. I'm not saying that the work ethic in the UK is not, but there definitely seems to be more of a balance. Between working and then taking time off. No,
absolutely. As you and I were talking earlier, I told you that I was born in Brazil.
Yes.
And I moved from Brazil when I was 9, right? But I remember, like, in Brazil, like, on the weekends, right? Like, Saturday, all the commerce would probably close, like, in the middle of the day.
Yes.
And on Sunday, nothing
would happen.
Like, you'd be lucky if you find, like, maybe a bakery that you can get some bread or anything like that.
Exactly.
But literally, everything was closed on Sunday.
Exactly.
Then you come to the U.S. and you're like, wow, this is different. Because, like, everything is pretty much open 24 hours. Of course, the pandemic changed that.
Oh, absolutely.
And actually, like, some days I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna, if I'm traveling, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to that one store because I flew in really late into a city. Nope, not anymore.
Right.
So we kind of get used on our own ways, right? But yeah, it's so different. Now that you say that, it is so true.
It is, and it's funny because now when I go back, I see there's a lot of similarities now between here and there because. As a child growing up there, like you just said, I mean, Sunday was just a ghost town. Nothing really opened on a Sunday. And now when I go back, Sunday just seems like any other day, to be honest with you. So things have changed a lot. But I think for me, and especially coming to South Florida, I have to say, coming from England, and England, as we all know, has a reputation when it comes to the weather. It was an adjustment that, Thanksgiving, although we don't celebrate Thanksgiving in the UK, but I say Christmas, in England, it's, you're indoors, you're by the fire and everything like that. And I think the first or second year when
South Florida, Miami.
when I called over and I said to my family over there that I said, so what's the weather like? I was, well, it's like in the low 80s, 70s. I was like, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
It was like, and I know that sounds really silly to say, but when I first came, I really missed the 4 seasons.
And that's, I can relate to that as well, because that's part of like what I think. That I've lived in Florida, for my whole life since I moved from Brazil. And in Florida, yes, we do have summer, which is like extremely hot.
Right.
And then, you have your spring, you have your fall, which is still very hot.
Yes.
But it's rain throughout the whole year pretty much, right?
Exactly.
And you're right. Like, I don't know what it's like to live in a place that's got 4 seasons. I would like for a period of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I would enjoy it, but I would like to experience the 4 seasons, at least for like a year, just to know what it's like.
What it's like, yeah, exactly. And it's strange because that was an adjustment. Now that I've been here for as long as I've been here, I still like the 4 seasons to experience them, but I have definitely acclimatized to the weather here. There's absolutely no doubt about that because, working, in the car rental business for as long as I had, and being very fortunate to have had, a lot of the times when it came to the winter months and you were speaking to New York-based accounts.
Yes.
I was always kind of like saying, okay, you come down, between November and April, and I would gladly return the favor by coming in the summer. So that's how I know that that's my measure to know that, I've definitely acclimatized,
absolutely,
to the weather here and everything. And then, being the avid tennis player that I am, that's a benefit now that I live here because I can play all year round, as opposed to in England, I was limited, in terms of how often I could play in a given year.
Sure. Now, besides tennis, do you follow any other sports? Like, being in England's huge in soccer, right? Football.
let's not go there
No.
because my friends and brothers and sisters in the UK tend to kind of banish me when I, though I'm from the UK,
Yes.
soccer is my least favorite
Is it
sport.
really?
It is.
Yeah.
A lot of it is because I can't play.
Okay.
I have 2 left feet. So yeah, I'm not really I'm not really an avid soccer fan. Ironically though, I do like rugby, which is the equivalent to American football here. So I do like to watch American football, but I don't have a favorite team per se. But what I do home in on is the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, that you will definitely get me, behind the TV and watching on a consistent basis where that is concerned. That I will watch. But other sports, table tennis. I like table tennis. I like most racket sports. Never been. I can play cricket, but I don't like to necessarily watch cricket. But usually any racket sport, you'll get me. You'll get my attention.
That's your thing.
Yeah.
Now, I've never been to England. I've never been to Europe at all. But I would like to go at some point. Yeah. I been waiting for our kids to get a little older so we can go, and they're kind of getting at the age that I think we can do some really far abroad travel with them. But when I think of England, just from what I see on TV, and you talk about English food is fish and chips. But can you break that down for us from an Englishman? Like, what would be like a typical plate that somebody would eat in England?
Oh my God!
Besides
fish and chips. Shepherd's pie.
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
Definitely shepherd's pie. Eggs and beans and sausages for breakfast.
Okay, what color beans?
Red.
Red beans. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Those are usually the British staples, if you will, in terms of foods. It's very interesting because I had this conversation not so long ago, because both my parents are from Jamaica.
Okay.
And typical food within our household was West Indian food.
Sure.
So my real exposure to English cuisine was when I went to school, or if I went out to a restaurant. But typically, within the household, it was typically West Indian cuisine, that I had. So as much as I say, I was born and raised in the UK, when we came home, it was very much a West Indian type of environment.
All right.
So to speak.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So very unique. Very, very, very unique, but yeah.
And your family migrated from Jamaica to England, and what was the occasion? Like, was it like job related, school? Like, what was the occasion?
Primarily job related.
Job related.
It was job related. My parents went to the UK from Jamaica in the mid-50s.
Okay.
Yeah, and like in my father's case, and also in my mother's case.
Did they meet in England, your parents?
No, they met in Jamaica.
Okay.
They met in Jamaica. In fact, they literally grew up in the same neighborhood.
All right.
In Jamaica, in St. Elizabeth. But I think really my dad kind of followed his older siblings, and then his eventual in-laws, so they kind of went in kind of age category, if you will, like the oldest, and then the oldest would send for the next set, and vice versa, and then they settled in the UK in a city called Sheffield.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. And as siblings, all my siblings, we were born in the UK, even the oldest right down to me and everything. But yeah, my parents, probably like 1955, 1956. Yeah, that they went over. And ironically, as a child, I always used to ask, my father and my mother, why they came, and, job related. But they always said that the goal was just to go to the UK for no more than 5 years and then go back.
Sure.
And that never happened.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a common theme, when you speak to, that generation, our parents, that was the goal. The goal was only to go there for 5 years or 10 years at the max, and then eventually come back to Jamaica. But that never happened. For some of them anyway.
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
And, living abroad, migrating from one country to another, like your parents did it and then you did it over here. Was there like cultural things that your parents kept besides the food just to keep you guys kind of like attached to to your home country?
No, say that again. Say that again.
Like your parents migrated from Jamaica to
the UK.
the UK. Was there anything cultural that they kept, like, that they did with you guys over the years just to keep you connected to your home country, like, or to their home country?
Definitely the foods.
The foods.
I would definitely say the discipline.
Yeah.
I'll definitely say the way how they disciplined us. I think they instilled in us the value of gratefulness, to be very grateful, never to take anything for granted. They instilled in us the value of family, a sense of community, and I think fundamentally to cultivate and develop a relationship with the Lord.
Sure.
And that always pay homage to his goodness and his grace and for what he's done in your life. But one thing I always loved about my parents is that they never enforced it on us. It wasn't kind of, you have to do this. It was more kind of, they led by example,
sure,
so to speak, and always giving an encouraging word, and to never ever take anything or anyone for granted. That was definitely a recurring theme that they instilled in all of us. And also the value of hard work. Nothing in this life is easy. And if you're going to do something, do it properly. Give it your all, or don't do it at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those are great values,
Yeah.
Like it's the kind of values that you want to take on for life, Like
exactly. Well, it's definitely carried me this far, so and I'm very grateful for that.
Nice. Those are great values.
Exactly.
Should be again, grateful and blessed to have values like that. It just it helps to get along the way.
Definitely. Absolutely.
So you've as we discussed, you've lived in the US for a number of years now. What does Errol do for fun? Like, what do you do to get your mind off of work? What are some of the things that you like to do besides playing tennis? You mentioned that as well, but talk about
travel.
Travel.
Yeah,
nice.
Love to travel.
That's good. That's good. Now, when you talk about travel, like, are you the kind of person, or you and your wife, like, do you guys like plan things like 8, 10 a year ahead, or do you just you come home on the weekend and you're like, you know what, let's just take off and go somewhere? Like, what, like, are you guys like on one end, the other end, or in the middle? Like, what?
I think in the middle.
Yeah.
I think if it's international, we tend to plan a year in advance.
Okay.
And then if it's domestic, it can be on a whim.
All right.
The holidays are coming up. You fancy going somewhere, or whatever the case may be. But we are avid travelers. We've been very blessed to have seen 7 continents, right? 6 continents. The only one that we have not seen is Antarctica.
Okay.
I have no desire.
Really?
But if the opportunity comes, I would definitely take it.
Yeah.
I would definitely take it. But yeah, we've been very fortunate to have seen 6 continents. I've always taken travel serious, even before I got married, because I think travel is a great educator. When you travel, it's a great educator. It gives you good education
and culture, right? Just
and
getting
culture.
to learn
Exactly.
other people's lives and how they live. And how they do things,
that's
right?
exactly the reason.
Yeah.
Because I think it gives you an heightened appreciation for what you have.
Sure, absolutely.
And for the way that you live.
Yeah, I relate to that.
And and it gives you a feeling of not to take what you have for granted. Because there are others that have it worse, have less, and they're still very content with what they have. And I think it gives you perspective, on life. And it's fun. It definitely fun. It's one of the ways that I totally disengage. because I'm of the school of thought that when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation.
Good for you.
So the cell phone, the work cell phone does not accompany me at all. I have no desire to check email. Because
you really disconnect.
I really do disconnect because, you know, my thing is that if I'm working and I'm on vacation, then what's the point of being on vacation?
Sure.
And, you know, the work will still be there. And when I come back, I'm going to feel like I never really took a break.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, that is a skill that I don't think many people have. Right. And as I was telling you earlier, you know, I struggle with that when I was working for the organization that I worked for previously, where, you know, it gets to a point that if you open the door, right, for something like that, where you kind of start mixing in your work with your vacation, and of course emergencies happen sometimes. You know, you're the only one that's taking care of a situation, but once you continuously let that happen, where work comes into, you know, your vacation, work comes into your family time, it just that starts becoming degrading, right? And then
very much so.
So your family time is not the same anymore. You're not, you know, enjoying it as much. So no, I think it's amazing that you were able to kind of really have that balance, you know. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Because, you know, for me, I think time is one of the most valuable commodities that you will ever have in this life. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And you can't put a price on time. You just can't, you know, and it's one of the most valuable resources that has ever been afforded to mankind. And I tend to go with the mindset to utilize it to the best of my ability.
You're a man of the Bible, and the Bible says that our days are numbered, right?
Exactly.
So we're only here for a period of time, and we're gonna make the most of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
exactly.
You know, I feel, and you know, as I've gotten older, as we discussed earlier today, just the experiences in my life, it's like, you know, what we go through here in this life is a preparation for our next life. You know, like
absolutely.
You know, it's you know, what we need to learn and the things that we need to go through, right? It all needs to become like a learning experience. And the one thing that I feel, again, just like you said, you know, you're a believer, I'm a believer, right? And I believe in God. It's that there's certain situations that we get into, and it's like, you know, until you learn your lesson and you take up what you needed to take from there, you're not going to graduate to the next level.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah,
I'm a definite firm believer in that.
Yeah, I could relate to what you're saying. So you know, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. No problem, because I do feel that, you know, things happen for a reason, and you know, there's a song that says, you know, he's never late, but he's always on time. And you know, I remember specifically when I, you know, was transitioning. Well, not transitioning, but during the pandemic when I was unemployed. And I think we spoke about this earlier, you know, how I actually got into Wise Moving, because there was a time where I was just beginning to feel frustrated with the current status. Things were slowly beginning to open back up. And I remember specifically waking up on a Thursday morning. I always remember it was a Thursday morning, and I just said, enough. I need to get back into the workforce.
Yeah.
And I remember sending out a few emails via LinkedIn, you know, to some of my contacts. And there's a mutual contact that we both know. And I reached out to him, and he, you know, I sent a very generic email, like saying, you know, the economy is beginning to open back up. I'm very confident that I will, you know, soon be in gainful employment. But in the meantime, you know, if you do know of anything or anything like that, you know, please keep me in mind. And I think it was like 3 hours later, this individual called me back and said to me that he had just submitted his resignation because he had been given an opportunity of a lifetime, and he was encouraged to take it, and he did take it. And he said that his boss at the time had said to him, you know, if you know of anybody, you know, with similar experience or, you know, can do business development, you know, please let me know, or what have you.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, he went back to his desk, and the first email that he saw was mine.
It's a blessing.
And he called me and told me, and I'm just saying, congratulations, that's awesome, way to go, blah blah blah. And then I could feel him smiling through the phone, and he said, Errol, you're not picking up what I'm putting down. And I says, excuse me? And he said, I've just submitted my resignation, and the company's looking for basically a replacement. Mm-hmm. And I read your email, and then the penny dropped, and I said, wow. And really and truly, the rest is history, which is why I'm now at Wise Moving. And I just feel like, when God sets it up that the stars align, they do align. And the week that I started to work at Wise Moving, that same week, I got a letter from the unemployment office saying that my unemployment checks were going to be suspended the following week. Oof. And I just say to myself, who but?
Yeah.
Who but?
It's not, God's never late. Mm-hmm. He's on time.
On time, exactly.
But like on his time.
On his time.
Not our time.
Exactly.
But it's the perfect time.
Exactly.
We may think that he needs to come in earlier.
That's right.
But I heard the saying the other day that you need to go through it to understand what it's like to go through it, right?
Exactly.
So, it was perfect timing.
That's right.
Because you had the time to go through it and understand it.
Exactly.
So I think that's amazing.
Exactly. And I think that, up until that time, he's preparing you for that next journey, that next chapter. And I knew, I just felt within myself, like I'm ready now. Sure. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And the alignment of that with the economy beginning to open up, it was still in this similar line of work, because one of the requirements that was placed, on the individual when he was looking or making the recommendations that the person had to be from parking. Mm-hmm. And I just say to myself, but who could have orchestrated that?
Yeah,
and the timing.
You had spent a brief time with the other company, and it was just enough.
Exactly.
It's like you got in there just before the pandemic. It was
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just testimony. And my counseling and advice, going from my own experience to those listening out there, is that never give up, never give in. Your time is coming. It may not be on your time, but it's definitely coming. And when you actually, whatever the opportunity is, it could be employment, it could be marriage, or whatever the case may be, once you actually are presented the opportunity and you're in the opportunity, then the realization comes like, aha, this was where I was meant to be.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Now, just rolling back a little bit on what you said a few minutes ago, touching back on the subject of the travels, can you name the top 3 places that you've been to that you're like, wow, this was like, the place that I enjoyed a lot? Like, what are the top 3?
Africa.
Okay. What in particular?
About Africa?
Yeah.
The fact that...
No, but what location did you visit in particular?
Oh, in particular. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Well, I would definitely say Cape Town.
Okay.
And I would also say Ghana.
Okay.
Ghana because of the history.
Nice.
I'm
big into soccer, and Ghana has got a great soccer team.
And ironically, the year that my wife and I went was the year that they participated in the World Cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It changes the country.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, because they eventually got knocked out, but I can't remember how deep into the competition that they got, but I remember we actually saw them, the actual team.
Nice.
We were actually driving, I think, back to the hotel, and then there was just so much commotion. And I think I was like looking on my phone and everything like that. And then the police was like directing traffic to kind of like scoot out. I wasn't even making the connection. And then when I glanced up, it was the soccer team.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But definitely Ghana, Cape Town for sure. So Africa is definitely number 1. And then I would say number 2 would be Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was an experience like none other,
right,
so to speak, and that was definitely surreal. And then I would say Brazil.
Brazil, nice.
Yeah, Brazil.
The tops.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Now, when you and your wife travel, are you guys adventurous about like trying the new foods, or are you just more like traditional? No, let me stick to what I know. Like, how are you guys in that aspect?
That's a very good question. She's the more daring one than
Okay.
me. I think when I was younger, I was more daring. As I've gotten older, I'm a little bit more. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like to kind of put it this way. I stick to foods that I can pronounce.
Okay.
If it's something I can't pronounce, yeah, I definitely tend to shy away from,
Okay.
so to speak. If it's known for being a staple, I definitely will attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about that. And in terms of exploring, I kind of go to the country with a mindset that I may never come back here again. So I want to see as much as I possibly can and do as much as I possibly can. It doesn't mean that I will never come back, but I just go with that mindset that I may never come back here again. So I want to be able to see as much as I possibly can.
Your vacations seem like my vacations with my family, where we're like, you know what, I'm on vacation, but my vacation, it's not really to relax, it's to explore.
Yes, it's to explore.
Right? So I usually come back more tired from the vacation.
Okay, I can relate.
My mind has been set free, right? My mind took a vacation, but my body's exhausted.
Yes,
it's like, oh,
exactly.
But you took in so much, or you're like a sponge, right?
Exactly. And that's the intent.
Yeah.
Is to take in as much as I humanly possibly can.
Nice.
So that when that plane, heads back to the States, I feel accomplished.
Yeah, you left nothing.
Like yes.
Right. And that's the way that I believe it's the way to be done, because like I'm usually like, when I travel somewhere new, I'm like, let's look at the options.
Yeah.
Tourist trap.
Right.
Well, I may want to go to this tourist trap because it's got a nice view, know, but most of the times I'm trying to run away from the tourist trap.
Yes.
And I'm like, what do the locals do in this place, right? So
likewise.
I definitely relate, man. Me and you need to go on a trip together. Let's
go,
for sure. My family and yours need to align something and go do something, because we kind of think alike,
Same mindset.
So that's kind of like the way to go,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
And again, I feel that travel is the one thing that, when you look back, again, it's the cultural thing that we talked about, is what you've learned, but no one can take that away from you, right?
Like that's exactly what I was just going to say. The experience, nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, and I think that people can spend money whichever way they want. It's their money, right? They get to do what they want with it. But I think that travel is money well spent, because you can buy a watch, buy yourself a new phone, but those things are just gonna be there, right? But
you can't buy an experience.
No, you can't. Like you go back and you think about it, man, that one time when I went to this place, and just the memories that I bring, it's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, like once you catch the travel bug, it's pretty cool.
It is. And the thing is, and I've had it since I was, I said probably from the age of 12.
Nice.
I always wanted to travel the world.
Great.
So it definitely feels a sense of accomplishment.
Nice.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
And a blessing.
Yeah.
It truly is a blessing.
Absolutely. That's amazing that you've been able to do that. Business development director, that's your position with Wise Moving. Tell us a little bit, like, what's a day like in Errol's shoes at Wise Moving?
At Wise Moving?
Yeah. Like, what do you do there? How do you handle things? Like, can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. The day-to-day of what I do at Wise Moving Prime Technologies, which is a technology company considered a leader and innovator of smart parking solutions through the deployment of in-ground sensors or mounted cameras. And it's a software that enables one to know in real time what is taking place at that particular parking spot or area, so to speak. So you'll know, what the availability is like, you'll know what the occupancy is like, and you'll know what the duration is like, and if any of those vehicles overstayed or if they did not pay. So what a typical day for me is just to kind of touch bases with all the existing accounts, make sure that, everything is working in accordance to how it should be, to see if there's any challenges, if there's any opportunities, because I do like to delve with the existing accounts on that particular subject, because if they know of an opportunity that opportunity would benefit from using our solutions, they will be our brand ambassadors, because they use the solution. Right. So they're not talking from textbook, they're talking from real experience. And we've been very fortunate to have garnered additional opportunities as a result of that. I do still believe in word of mouth. I mean, I know we have all social media and all that kind of stuff, but I do believe in word of mouth. And in our case, that has definitely proven to be true.
Great.
Then what I'll do is, once I've done that portion, I will, check emails, make sure, that I'm current. It's a challenge, but I try to at least allocate a certain portion of the day to kind of, read, articles. You see what's going on in the industry, but I say a challenge because, the phone's ringing, or I have an IOU for an account or whatever the case may be. So I do feel that the ability to read articles is more luxury. So that tends to get relegated to the evening, so to speak. But I do believe in that because I think it's good to kind of stay on top of what's going on, industry trends, etc. Of course, I have conference calls. Of course, my boss, isn't stationed in the US, so we spend, portions of the day just catching up and talking and going through, the to-do list of, of what needs to be done. Seeking out, trade shows that, are worth attending, and then touching bases with co-workers, but counterparts that work in the industry, kind of get a feel, for what I may not know,
sure,
so to speak. So it's very fluid. Travel, I would say probably is 25% of the time.
Okay.
Most of it is to trade shows, or if I'm doing presentations like how we met at FPTA.
Yep.
So in a nutshell, that's usually, a typical day.
Sure.
It doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah. It gets mixed around a whole lot.
It gets mixed around a lot because, sometimes, some accounts can be a bit more demanding than others for obvious reasons. Because, maybe, the sensor's not working or there's a malfunction or whatever the case may be. But that is, in essence, a typical day.
Sounds like a pretty full day to me.
It is. It is. But the key is, for me, is that I thoroughly enjoy what I do. So for me to do what I do and then get a paycheck, oh man. That tops it off, right? That tops it off,
right?
Because I think, I won't say in an ideal world, but I could see myself still doing what I do even if I didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's how much I enjoy it.
No, I get it.
That's how much I enjoy it.
I get it.
I mean, FP&L and the other companies that come for their monies, may not see it that way because they still want their money. So I have to generate some form of income. But you understand what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. Yeah, you can give away your labor, but you still want to collect our payments. Yeah?
Exactly.
No, I get what you're saying. I can relate to what you're saying. Now, so Wise Moving Prime Technology.
Yes.
That's the the official name of the company. But you guys go by Wise Moving. I've seen your ads, everything. So how long has the company been in business for?
The company has been in business for close to 5 years.
5 years, okay.
5 years, yeah.
And this whole time they've been in business, have they always only done business in the U.S. market, or have they been abroad as well?
Before I came on board, they did do some international markets. But since I came on board, which this coming August will be 2 years, it's been primarily focused now on North America.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned earlier that you guys you work with sensors, you work with cameras, you work with software, right? On the reservation platform side of it. On the sensor side, do you carry more than one type of sensor, or is it only one type of sensor that you guys carry?
It's typically one sensor. We go through a third party. It's one sensors, and those sensors, are in ground or mounted. Okay. Depending on location, because obviously, in the Northeast, unlike South Florida where we don't have snow, we have to kind of they are designed, to be snowplow resistant, so to speak.
So would it be safe to say that if you have an application where there is snowplows, is that when you would go to the mounted versus the in-ground? Is that what the difference would be?
Correct, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So depending on the opportunity and depending on location will determine the type of sensor that is used.
Now, based on the application of there being in-ground or being mounted, is there a big price difference between the two, or is it in essence the same sensor, but they just get installed differently?
There is a slight price differential, and the installation is different. Yes,
Okay.
because for those that are located in the northeast where there is snow and everything, they're a bit more embedded in the ground.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a difference as far as performance, whether it's in the ground or if it's
No, it's
mounted?
the same. It's the same.
You get the same performance out of them?
It's the same performance.
And typically, what kind of infrastructure do you need to put those type of sensors in the ground or to be mounted?
Do you mean in terms of like drill and or what have you?
Yeah, in terms of actually installation, the implementation process. Do you need to drill a hole in the ground? Do you need power and data?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But is it cellular based or it's
wireless?
Hardwired? Everything's hardwired.
Hardwired. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So typically, let me just go over this real quick.
Yeah. Sure.
So if I'm gonna do an installation, I want to put some sensors in. I would have them to again drill the holes in the ground. I'm sure that there's an electrical box that goes underneath it to house that. So you run, you have conduits, right? You run your conduits. So is this something that could be done prior to the concrete or the asphalt being put in place? Or if you have to retrofit that, would you have to cut out that asphalt, that concrete, do your installation, and then repave?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends.
I know I'm being very
but all of the above. But it depends on the opportunity.
So every application is a little bit different.
Exactly, and the location.
Understood.
Exactly. But the key takeaway is that, depending on the opportunity, it will either be a sensor or it'll be a mounted camera. It depends on the opportunity. But the real bells and whistles of what we do is embedded in the data that we are able to house on our software that comes through the in-ground sensor or the mounted cameras. We have like a dashboard, so you can see in real time as a parking owner of an operator, parking owner, you can see in real time what's taking place, the activity that's taking place at the actual location itself. So you can tell whether or not, if it's 30 spaces, of that 30 spaces at this precise moment in time, if 12 of them are occupied. You can tell eventually, if that driver paid or did not pay for that parking space. You can tell how long they stayed at that parking space. And the value of knowing that information then enables you as the owner to make data-driven decisions. Because if it's not data-driven, it's an opinion. So you can see what's taking place. So let's play with the scenario. So a scenario could be that you have X amount of spaces that are geographically located near restaurants. So the probability of maximizing all those spaces between 11:30 and say 2:00 is going to be greater than say 3 and 4 o'clock or 10 and 11 o'clock.
So your product can help you do dynamic pricing?
That's exactly what I'm leading to.
Okay.
So you can intuitively then say, you know what? I'm going to, just for conversation speaking, I'm going to increase my hourly rate from say $10 to $15 between 11:30 and 2:00. Because I know that the probability of that particular area being full is going to be greater. So what does that then do? It helps increase revenue, so to speak. Also, that, for example, you as the driver now, and we do have an app as well, that you as the driver knows, for example, that, I know in real time that there is an available parking space at that particular location at this time right now as I'm driving, so to speak. So the upside to that is that it enhances the customer experience. And then also it helps with carbon emission because you're not driving around aimlessly looking for a parking spot. You know exactly where to go. And that's all because of the data that the software ingests and that you can see what's taking place.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, if a customer was in between and they didn't know if they wanted to do or what would be the right application for either a sensor or a camera in 2023, what do you recommend? Do you say, hey, and also the other question would be, could you do both? Because maybe they have one street or one section of their asset that requires one technology. The other section maybe require another technology. Can you do both? But what would, if you had to pick one over the other, which one would it be? The sensor or the camera?
That's a very hard question to answer, and I'll be very
it's
honest.
Very broad, right?
It's very broad,
yeah.
Because the thing what makes, I think, Wise Moving very unique is that, you know, most organizations will say this, and it's true. It's not, you know, it's we truly do listen to what the goals and objectives are of the actual project. What is the mission? What is your ultimate goal? And based on that, we make the recommendation whether or not it would be a camera or whether or not it would be a sensor.
So it comes down to what you're looking to get out of the system.
Exactly. You know, what is your absolute goal? What are you trying to achieve? What I have noticed in this short space of time that I've been with the organization is that there tends to be a tendency for people, or I should say the opportunity, to lean towards cameras versus sensors. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It just means for whatever reason, they just prefer to use cameras. I think personally, it's that I think some of the sensors, it's got nothing to do with the make or who does it. It's just that because of that element of, you know, when you're in the Northeast, you know, the snow plows and everything, sometimes it can dislodge, it can malfunction or whatever the case may be. Whereas with the cameras, that doesn't seem to be so much of an issue, so to speak. And those issues with the cameras can tend to be remedied remotely.
Sure.
Whereas with a sensor, you have to physically either send the replacement or literally go and physically do the replacement itself. So that's my observation. I'm not saying that's the law. I'm just saying that's my observation in terms of why I think some people or the opportunities tend to lean towards the cameras as opposed to the sensors. I've never been in a situation where it's been both.
No.
It's usually one or the other.
Okay.
If we do encounter both, that will be unique.
Okay.
And that will be my first time ever.
All right. So if you're listening and you think that you may need both,
right,
you may be the first. Yeah?
Exactly. Right? Exactly. I like how you put that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, just to educate people a little bit more on your products, right? So your sensors, are they single space sensors?
Yes.
Okay. And what about your camera? Can your camera do multi-space, or
it can do multi-space? Depending. The key thing is the height of the pole that the camera will be mounted on.
Sure.
So, for example, you know, if it's a 60-foot pole versus a 20-foot pole, the reach is going to be greater with the higher the pole versus the lower the pole, so to speak. So most of the opportunities that we have done, the pole height tends to be anything north of 50 feet. So that then allows them more coverage in terms of what they are looking to see, for the lack of a better word. A recent deployment that we've done here in South Florida, that pole height, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, I think it's like 40 feet. So I think they can see up to probably 30 spaces, 40 spaces.
Oh, that's a good amount.
It's a good amount.
Now, does this application, like for the camera per se, does it work for parallel parking spaces or like side-by-side spaces?
That's a very good question.
Because again, it falls into like your application.
I would say both.
Yeah,
I would say both.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say both for that one. Correct.
Good to know.
Yeah, because our area of expertise is on-street parking, loading zones, and curb management.
Yeah. If I was to install the Wise Moving system in my asset, and if I wanted to use your software or your technology to do some sort of enforcement to know if people have not paid for parking and are people that paid and they continue to stay in that spot, is that a solution that you guys offer?
We do. And the way how that works is that though, we don't really kind of get involved in to penalize someone who hasn't paid versus someone who has paid, how that works is that
you're not actually enforcing, you're not assigning the ticket, but you're collecting the data.
We're collecting the data.
Right.
And that data is then used and put in the hands of enforcement, who they can then carry out their function.
Great.
So for an example would be, we have a partnership with Pay by Phone. So for example, when they do their reconciliation report, meaning, how long that person stayed, does that duration of that stay match the payment? If there's a discrepancy in that, the system will let them know that, hey, car X stayed for 30 minutes, but only paid for 15 minutes. And then they would then submit that to enforcement, and then they would then carry out the action.
So if I'm running these reports and I can see that, I'm like, wow, this area right here, it's a hot spot for people that overstay and don't pay. Exactly. Now I can, alert enforcement, like, hey, go hit up that spot more often because this is happening all the time.
That's right.
Okay.
Or like, for example, on any given day, you can say, okay, these cars stayed longer than they should have, and they did not pay. Okay. So these cars need to be cited.
Sure.
And then the enforcement would then carry out that function. So what the system does, or the data gives them the necessary information as to who they should ticket.
Perfect. So to define then what solutions your company is offering, you guys are working with sensors. You're working with LPR cam. Well, I'm sorry, you said cameras. I'm saying LPR, but are they LPR cameras?
Yeah, some of them are LPR.
Okay, sure. Now, are you able to tap into existing cameras? Can you use an existing infrastructure for that purpose, or does it have to be a specific brand of cameras that you guys work with?
No, it doesn't have to be a specific brand at all. It can be agnostic, I think is the correct term.
Yep. Yeah. You're camera agnostic?
Yeah, exactly.
So if I have a parking asset and I already have cameras in place, and I say, you know what, I want to use the Wise Moving technology to enhance what I'm doing in my operation, that's an option. I can reach out to you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. That's great to know. Now, on the software side of it, you said that you have an app. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So what can a customer do through the app?
They can see where there is an available parking spot.
Okay. And I'm sorry, this question was supposed to have come before. But your app is customer facing, so it's end user facing. It's not for the asset owner.
Exactly.
But it's for the actual customer of the asset owner
as well.
Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Exactly. And they can see in real time where there is an availability.
Sure.
And it will guide them the most, I would say, in the most environmentally friendly route.
Sure.
So as to minimize carbon emissions.
Now, are people able to pay for parking on that app, or is it only to find the open parking spaces?
It's only to find. We don't get involvement with payments.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just to find the available parking spot.
Okay. And it's not reservation based. I can't reserve for future. Can I?
No, you can only, because the reservation aspect would be then going back to my Space Genius days. So you can only see in real time where there is an availability.
Okay.
If it's a project that's done in partnership with Pay by Phone, then you can see in real time where there is availability, and then the Pay by Phone component then enables you to pay for it. But that's only that's the Pay by Phone component.
Right. Errol, why don't you share with us and to everybody who's listening, who would be the ideal customer for Wise Moving?
The ideal customer for Wise Moving would be the private parking operator, universities, colleges, because that's one of our most recent deployments. I hesitate, but I will say municipalities.
Okay.
But with municipalities, that goes in line with the expression I said earlier, watching wet paint dry.
It takes long to do the deals.
Oh my gosh, I can celebrate 3 birthdays before the deal is signed. So yeah, definitely municipalities is definitely a candidate. Private parking operators, universities. We'd like to eventually branch into healthcare, but the only reason why I say that with a hint of reservation is because most healthcare don't really charge for parking. So it really kind of comes into play once it's, parking. We were working on an initiative at a sporting arena in the Northeast. That is definitely something that we definitely want to revisit. But I would say those definitely universities, private parking operators, and municipalities, and of course airports as well.
Okay.
But we've yet to kind of get into that particular market.
And what would you say that's the, I'm sure there's plenty of similarities,
Yeah,
but what sets Wise Moving Prime Technologies apart from the other companies in the industry that do something similar to what you guys do, that have the
absolutely.
in-ground sensors, that are using the cameras? Do you mind
Absolutely.
sharing that with us?
No, no problem. I think primarily it's our software. I think it's the data that it contains that can be used to make informed decisions. But what really sets us apart, I think, is, we're very competitively priced. Because of the size of the organization, there isn't too many processes to go through to get back to you in a timely manner with an answer. We've got 24-hour support, 24/7 hour support, and I think we really do listen to what the customer needs are. Of course, we have to make money, but if it's a case that we have to make a hard decision, and a hard decision would be to say, you may want to go this route versus maybe sensors, or you may want to go cameras, or whatever the case may be. And in the long run, it could, I wouldn't say it wouldn't impede, but it could, curtail our revenue potential. But because we know it's the best option for the actual organization, that's what we will do. So I think we govern a lot with integrity,
Okay.
so to speak. But I think those are the key fundamentals that definitely set us apart. And I think also as well, a lot of the referrals that we have gotten over the past, I would say, year or two, especially since I have been there, is because of our reputation from the account or the opportunity that is making the referral, because they then can see, hey, I'm not only recommending them because I've heard about them, I'm recommending them because I use them, so to speak. And I think that's what really kind of sets us apart. And especially, given the fact that we're so small and we're growing, I definitely think we are definitely testimony to word of mouth, speaks volumes, and we stand by our word.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you another question that's somewhat related to this. Um, you mentioned that you guys have an integration with pay by phone.
Mm-hmm.
What if today there's somebody listening and they say, you know what, we don't have pay by phone, we have a company that does work similar to pay by phone.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys open if the opportunity is something that, of course, catches your attention? It's an opportunity that you guys are willing to take on. But is another integration with a different company that does something similar to pay by phone? Are you guys willing to do that?
Absolutely.
You are. Okay.
Absolutely, because that's the only way that I think we can grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I would see that as us being vested to diversify,
sure,
so to speak. And those opportunities we would definitely welcome. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. That's good to know. At least, leaves an open door for people that may be interested in the product but are using a different company. So
absolutely.
Even if it's not pay by phone, if they have just like a reservation system, would that also be a good fit for you guys as well?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you should say that, because we're actually entertaining an opportunity where that scenario is actually in place.
Nice.
So for sure, definitely.
That's good. To let your viewers know.
Mm-hmm.
Errol, so you guys install sensors, you install cameras, you have a software.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition, whenever a customer wants to deploy your system, they have to buy the sensors or the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay for the installation. They have to pay for, I'm sure, for professional fees, that would come along with the project.
Mm-hmm.
But is your pricing model, is it based on just a location? Is it based on the per space or per camera? Is it a monthly? Is it a yearly fee? How does that work for you guys?
So to break it down, there are some fees that are compulsory in terms of, or what I should say is a one-time fee. And then we have like project management fees. Those are one-time fees. But then how we make our money is basically on a monthly subscription fee. And again, that depends on the scope and the magnitude of the project, so to speak. So those fees will vary, but it's contingent on the project, the size of the project, the length of the project, on what the goals and objectives are of the project. But there'll be one-time fees, integration, project management, and maybe one or two others. And then there will be a monthly subscription fee as well, which is very competitively priced. And again, those fees, we're flexible. because we have worked with organizations that may not have, a relatively large budget, so to speak. So there's room for negotiation in there.
During the time that you've been with Wise Moving, or Wise Moving Prime Technologies,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was the one project that you worked on that you really enjoyed the most, and what was the reason why you enjoyed that project the most?
Okay, there's two that come to mind, but
Okay.
I'm going to speak to one in particular.
Sure.
It was a government entity one,
Mm-hmm.
and the deployment was relatively straightforward, but the group were phenomenal, and it was executed in a very timely fashion. The group was excellent, but the reason why I really enjoyed working on that project was because within a relatively short space of time, they were so satisfied with the solution that they referred 2 additional projects.
You gotta love those.
As a result of that.
Right.
And now we're looking at maybe a 4th.
Nice.
As a result.
You gotta love those projects.
Exactly. So again, it's word of mouth.
Yes.
And what I liked with this particular project that I'm talking about, there were some kinks. There were definitely some kinks at the beginning, but we worked through them. And I think, because of the attention to detail, I think because we responded in a timely manner, that I think they overlooked the kinks and were so impressed that's why the referrals came.
Yeah, I mean, look,
so to speak. Yeah.
I'm gonna, say it in caca happens, right?
Right.
Just to keep it like PG, right?
It does.
But it's how you handle it, right?
Exactly.
And how you make it happen, right? Like it's a project.
Exactly.
Anything can happen, right?
Exactly.
Like you could be working on something, and see, a friend of mine was an installer for a park system for a long time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he used to tell me the craziest stories where he would have to do some trenching along, the side of a building or something. And he's like, by code, no one's supposed to put any pipes on the ground. I think it's like above anything above 18 inches or something.
Uh-huh.
And he was telling me that one time he was doing a project in Tampa that he was doing some excavation to lay down some conduit for data. And he said that when he was about 6 inches, below ground, he hit the water main.
Yeah.
He said the water was shooting up so high that he could. He's like, I thought it was reaching the sky.
Right.
He's like, it wasn't supposed to be this. Again,
right.
It happens.
It does.
What are you gonna do? Stuff happens, right?
But I think it's how you recover.
Absolutely.
It's all how you recover.
Then that's the taste that you're gonna leave in the mouth of your customer, right?
Exactly.
It's how you handle the issue.
Exactly.
Right? Did you run away from it?
Exactly.
Did you run towards it and attack it?
Exactly.
So that's what I think. That's the where you add value to your customers.
Absolutely.
And how you show them that you can overcome those challenges.
And the thing is it's just come to mind as well. And the projects that we have. The projects that we are now looking at as a result of are bigger. Nice. They've progressively gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's testament, to our solution, how we handle the account. Mm-hmm. And the key thing, and I think is fundamental, and it's very simple, communication. You gotta communicate. Gotta communicate the expectations. Sometimes maybe not even so much at Wise Moving, but I've been in situations where, the organization, is, I would say, enforcing a deadline. And I know intuitively I know we could make the deadline, but because the time is so compressed, it would compromise the integrity. And I've had to say, can't be done.
Yeah.
And then I explained the reasons why, and then I set a more realistic deadline, and somehow you negotiate and you get there.
Yeah, and look, I can tell that you're a man of experience because of what you just said, right? Expectation.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Setting expectations in the beginning of a project is one of the single things that you can do that will guide that project to,
exactly.
The most, how should I say, the successful completion that you could ever have.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
Because if you don't communicate and the customers, they have in their own minds what they expect out of the system or how the implementation is going to go. Mm-hmm. But if you can sit down and have a kickoff call, right, and you say, "Hey, by the way, this is how we do."
What I call a meeting of the minds.
Meeting of the minds. That's a great
right.
one. That's a great one. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a meeting of the minds, and you're just gonna set expectations. You're gonna say, "Hey, we're not getting the equipment until 6 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take 3 weeks for installation.
Exactly.
We could run into a couple problems. Let's just be realistic, as you stated.
That's
but as
right.
long as the expectations have been laid out ahead of time, then these customers are not like, come on, I thought this was going to get installed in a month and a half. And so no, that was good. You know, I can tell that you do things right. So
it's the only way.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's good way to look at it. You know?
Because to me, that's success. Success is not never. I mean, revenue, as we all know, we all love revenue, and that will always be. But I think the overarching, in terms of success, real success, is communication and setting the expectation.
I'm gonna share a personal experience here that I had. So when I was working for AVPM, and Las Vegas was just starting to launch its paid parking programs, right? So it had started. MGM was one of the first hotel or casino brands to go ahead and do it. And we had the opportunity to bid on a smaller project, but it was very important, which was the Win in the Encore project, right? And we bid against some of the major companies in the market, companies that were much bigger than AVPM, that could deliver their project probably much quicker. And we ended up winning that project, right? And it entailed the Win in the Encore in Las Vegas, and also the Encore in Boston Harbor. So it was kind of like it was a deal that was just combined with all three properties, which ended up being very profitable for the business. And at the end, I'm not gonna lie, I was almost like pinching myself. How did I win that project? How did I win that project? And I reached out after everything was said and done, and we had a signed contract. I reached out to the IT project manager who was in charge of this project, and I'm like, why? Like, why did you guys choose us? Like, don't get me wrong, like, we can do it, but you're giving us a chance, right? Because it was a major project for us at the time. And then he pretty much said it. He goes, listen, we felt that you guys would listen to us. We felt that you guys were small enough that you would listen and do the things that we need, but you were big enough that you could pull the project off. So we're willing to bet on you guys and give you guys a chance. And I'm like, wow, I'm gonna take that lesson for life. Just being honest, right? Being
integrity,
real with what you say. Just pass on trust, right, to your customer. Those are the key things that I believe that really make a deal come through. And again, the product sometimes, it could be an average product, or again, I'm not sure what kind of product the viewers over there watching sell or they offer. But if you pass trust to your customers, and then you show them that you're capable of listening, and you're capable of just paying attention to detail.
That's right.
And when they call, you answer in a timely manner, and you get back to them, and you address their issues. I think that has a lot to do with closing a deal and making it happen.
Absolutely. And follow up.
Yeah,
you gotta follow up. You gotta follow up.
Don't drop it and leave it.
Oh gosh,
hey,
that's a no. That's just
is everything okay? How are you doing? Anything I can do for you?
Exactly. How can we make it better?
Absolutely.
What did we not do so good on? And what have you? How can we make it better? But I think follow up is key. But like I said, communicate expectations. You gotta communicate expectations. So that everybody's on the same page, so to speak. And I think also it's having the because one thing I'm a huge proponent of is sometimes you're in you come in a meeting, or you're in some negotiations, and you can be asked a question and you really truly don't know the answer, and it's a case of, okay, but I want the deal. Be upfront. You know what? That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that, but guess what? I'll get back to you in 24 hours.
Yeah.
It saves, because I've been in situations where I have participated in meetings, not at Wise Moving, in previous companies, and a question was asked. The person panicked, made up an answer, and straight away the person who was asking the question knew that you just made that up.
Yeah.
And you could tell the integrity shifted at that moment in time. And unfortunately, so said, so done, we didn't get the deal.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because you could tell, like, credibility had been compromised at that moment in time. It would have had been better had you just said, you know what? Let me get back to you on that. I don't know. I think I know, but I don't know specifically the answer to that. Let me get back to you on that. And the person got reamed out, by the the manager overseeing the project or whatever the case may be, because even the manager didn't know the answer, but because that person was leading the conversation, she didn't want to kind of usurp, if you will, for the lack of a better phrase. So she let her, but she just said to her, listen, if you're in a situation like that, just say you don't know, because we all felt it. The minute she answered, it was just like, that is not the answer. That is not the answer. And the credibility just went at that moment.
And it happens more often than we can think.
Oh, it does. It really does. And it's all because, the pressure is to get the deal, And sometimes you have to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, that deal ain't for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It saves you a lot of headache.
It does. It really does, and but it's having the confidence to say that.
Yeah.
Because not all opportunities are opportunities that are right for you at that time.
Yeah. Now, where would you say what's the roadmap like for Wise Moving Prime Technologies? Give me like a 5-year, like 10-year. What do you think you guys are going to be at?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I definitely think we will definitely have expanded our footprint within the United States. I would like to say eventually globally. But I think right now, we're small. I'm not going to make any bones about that. We are small. We're evolving. But I definitely would say that Wise Moving is poised to grow numerically within the organization, in terms of people within the organization. I think we are poised to grow within the United States. I can definitely see that. I think right now, we're not in a lot of states, but I would say probably within 5 years, we will probably be, I would probably say at least probably 10 more than we are right now. And then I would like to say eventually in a 10-year plan that we're pretty much nationwide. And then that will then lend itself to then go global.
Very nice.
But I think we can only get there once we start bringing on, a few more people on board to kind of make it be more of an equal division of labor in order to grow.
And you mentioned earlier when we were talking about like that you guys need some strategic partnerships, right, to grow, to get to the place where you want to be. You want to share a little bit, like what would those partnerships look like? Maybe, we can entice somebody who's watching who would want to join in and partner with you guys on some deals. Could you, share a little bit of that?
We have got some very good strategic partnerships. We're looking for some more. If I'm going to be very honest, we're looking for some that have deeper pockets to kind of help.
Sure.
That's always a plus. And then also as well, like with some of the partners that I cited earlier, I think those partnerships that definitely have nationwide coverage is definitely going to help us accelerate, or as I would say, land more and expand more. So definitely nationwide, deeper pockets, and that truly believe in what we're doing. Because some of the meetings I have been in as it relates to what we do, and I would say this more kind of gears towards the municipalities, is that they see the benefit of what we do, but a lot of it is, let's revisit this in a couple of months. Let's revisit this in a couple of months, and I think as technology is evolving, and as, we have, this proliferation of, digital transformation, I think those comments to what we do, I think are going to progressively become less, and they're going to see the need for implementation of what we do, along with some of what our competitors do, is going to be more imminent than something that can be put, in a kind of, we'll look at that in the fourth quarter, as opposed to we're in the first quarter right now,
sure,
so to speak. And I think that's some of the challenges that we have encountered as an organization. But I do feel that will transform relatively soon. But yeah, definitely organizations that have more of a national and probably global presence and that have deep pockets.
Good to know. So you guys heard, right?
Right.
If you fit the bill, right? You're going to reach out to Errol. We're going to have his contact information. Wise Moving Prime Technologies information will be here as well. Where do you see the future of parking going? In particular, like to your space, right? Like the sensor space, the reservation space. Where do you see that going? Like what? Like again, no one could be right. Only time will tell. But just your opinion. What do you think? What's going to happen with parking?
I think parking eventually will become totally frictionless. I think it will be, just done on the app, so to speak. You reserve, you pay, you extend, whatever the case, everything. I think because research shows that a disproportionate amount of what we do is all on the phone, and I think parking is going in that direction anyway. But I do feel like it will be totally frictionless. I don't think it will look anything like how it used to, say 5-10 years from what we know it as. I think it will totally be controlled by the app. That's just my personal opinion. I really do. Yeah. And that's what I feel. Because, I've been to some seminars, over the past year. And I think this was a government funded seminar. It was in DC. And, when they talked about, the aftermath of the pandemic and budget allocation, technology was awarded the most, in terms of budget. So I think that's an indication, a direct indication within itself, of where we are going as a society.
All right, thank you for your.
But that's just my opinion.
No, perfect. And again, it's an opinion, right? Only time will tell, who's right and who's wrong. So exactly. It's an opinion for sure. Errol, we discussed about the solutions that Wise Moving Technology offers, and you guys incorporate sensors, you incorporate cameras, you have your app, you have your software. Mm-hmm. But what is the core of your organization? What is the one thing that you said, hey, this is what we're all about. Mm-hmm. This is what we offer, mm-hmm. and this is what we thrive on. Mm-hmm.
That's a very easy question to answer. What we really thrive on, because though we've talked about in-ground sensors and we've talked about mounted cameras, those are all third parties that we work through in order to execute what we do in terms of our product. But really and truly, our product offering is embedded in the software and the data that the software holds. The real-time data, which is parking availability, parking duration, parking occupancy, that really is the guts of what we actually offer as a solution, that we generate that data through a sensor or a mounted camera, because that data you can utilize to make informed decisions. You can utilize to increase revenue. You can utilize to enhance the efficiency of your operation, because as I stated earlier, without data, it's just an opinion. And that data is valuable. That data, really does have a monetary value tied to it, because it can really make your life a hell of a lot more easier than what it is. So, it really is about the data, and the emphasis on that is real-time data,
And if I was to compare, yes, there's a fee for your system. Yes, there's an investment. I'm sure there's a period of ROI, but maybe in the mid to not so long term period, a customer of yours can pretty much say, hey, the investment made here was a wise investment,
No pun intended.
Yeah, right. Because look, here we are. We made the investment, but look at the data that we're getting out of this. Look at the value that we're getting out of the system.
Exactly.
Now we can, make changes here, and we're gaining better, customer response out of this.
Exactly.
We're enhancing customer service. Mm-hmm. The customer experience has gotten better. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, hey, we're also making more revenue. Would you say that's a true testament to what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better. Absolutely.
You guys hiring?
We can take you, Anderson.
No, it's been great having you, man. I really enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It really has been, and to all the listeners out there, I hope, this exchange with Anderson, not only gives you an understanding as to what Wise Moving Prime Technologies does, but also as well, I hope that through the experiences that, we collaborated on and, talked about, can be a source of inspiration, to your everyday life, and just know that, never give up, never give in, keep persevering. It will happen. It may not happen on your timetable, but it will definitely happen. And I hope through the experiences of both Anderson and myself may be a source of encouragement that, life can be hard, but life can be very, rewarding, it can be invigorating. And despite the challenges, you will learn from that and you will grow from that as a person, not only in your professional life, but also in your personal life as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. Like, I mean, you closed it off well. I was gonna ask you a question at the end, and you pretty much answered it. Like,
really?
It was like telepathy, you know. I was gonna ask you if you had to leave a message for everybody who's listening, and maybe for the whole world to hear.
Right.
You probably did it right there. I'm not sure if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that, but if there was one thing that you could say to everybody, and if you could deliver a message to everybody's inbox today or everybody's text message app, would that be what you would have left with them?
It would, and I think I've always used this saying, even back as a child growing up in England: whatever you do, whatever you say, or whatever you put your mind to, execute it with a level of passion for excellence.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you for coming. I had a great time today. It was awesome learning about your organization, getting to learn about your life story. I think it was awesome. Thank you so much for coming by.
No, thank you. And then one last thing, if you need any more information on Wise Moving Prime Technologies, visit www.wisemoving.co. That's www.wisemoving.co.
It's not .com. I sent him an email to set up this meeting, and he never got it. Okay, so it's .co. But either way, we're gonna list all his contact information and then Wise Moving's contact information on the comment area of this video, so you guys will be able to get access to Errol and to his organization. And thank you for watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed getting to know Errol and the solutions offered by Wise Moving Prime Technologies. Please support us by liking and subscribing to our channel. To be notified when our next episode is posted, make sure to ring the bell. Take care.
If you or someone you know wants to be a guest on our show, contact us through our website, www.myparkingconsultant.com.